Hello everybody, Lisa here. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back if this is your first time joining me. This was a much requested walkthrough. When I do my monthly recent deck roundups where I talk about new decks that have come in for review or that I've purchased, I ask you all what you most want to see a more thorough video about, and this one was very highly requested, The Beloved Dead by Carrie Paris and Tina Hart. This is an oracle for divining ancestral wisdom. So I talked about this a little bit in my recent deck roundup for September. It calls itself a hauntingly appealing divination deck. Now, one thing I wanted to mention, and I have not checked this information out, but a couple of people commented during my recent deck roundup that this oracle deck was part of the initial independent run of the Relative Tarot. Like, you could get the Relative Tarot and this oracle as part of the Kickstarter, I think, or the original purchase. I don't know a whole lot about that, but I wanted to mention it in case it feels relevant to you, or maybe you do already have the independent version of this and you may not realize it. So before you purchase it, if you did back the Relative or purchase the Relative Tarot when it was independent, you might want to check and see if you have these cards. But this is the mass market oracle, The Beloved Dead. Now, I have to say, the Relative Tarot didn't jump out at me quite as much initially. It felt very RWS based, which is fine. I love RWS based decks, but the images seemed more RWS reminiscent. This feels kind of like a standalone, unique deck to work with. It just feels all like its own unique system, its own thing, which of course as an oracle deck it would be. Now it comes in a really nice magnetic open box, which is great for mass market. We're seeing more of these. I love these boxes. Any boxes that open like this where it's all one piece are just so practical to me. But whenever, admittedly, whenever I have a deck like this that the book is bigger than the cards, I typically will put the cards in a bag and hang it on my wall. If you've seen the system, you know, and then put the book on my shelf. This one though, I may actually keep in its box because I don't know if I'll only be pulling this out for very specific things or if this is the kind of deck I would pull out and use as like a basic oracle. We're going to discover that together today as we go through the cards. So it comes beautifully gilded. This is a really nice smooth gilding. It doesn't have that uncomfortable feeling. And I think sometimes the uncomfortable feeling, there's a nice ribbon lift out in the bottom. I think sometimes that uncomfortable feeling comes about because the cards themselves are too stiff. And so the gilding can be kind of cutting. This doesn't feel like it's going to do that. We'll know when I get to the shuffling stage. And this is what the backings look like. It is quite glossy, which I like. It doesn't photograph or go on video as easily without glare. But if you can figure out your lighting, I just love how gloss makes the cards pop. It's not necessarily my go-to, but when I end up with a deck that's glossy, I actually personally really like it. And I think in the past I've kind of knocked glossy decks because they can be annoying for videoing or photographing. But they do feel nice in the hand. So, I mean, I hope manufacturers continue to make glossy cards because I think a lot of us like it. Like, we like how it feels and we like how it looks. So what we're going to do is I'm going to pull out the guidebook. We're going to actually take a look at this a little bit first. And then I'm going to keep this open. We're going to do a flip through because I think there's sort of a system to this deck. And I want to kind of tour this deck while keeping the system of it in mind. So let's start with some basic info so you kind of know what we're getting into. So it says, welcome to the Beloved Dead. For those who have asked even one of those eternal self questions, welcome to the Beloved Wait. Okay. I was just like, wait, what? I read this and then I started reading this. Okay, let me try this again. For those who have asked even one of these eternal self questions, welcome to the Beloved Dead, a deck for both you and your spirited ancestors whose stories, wisdom, and experience still seek expression. The Beloved Dead is a deck that enchants with a heady patina of long ago. Lift these cards from their box and you'll feel that just discovered excitement of finding a dog-eared photo album nestled in the cobwebs of an attic. Who are these animated spirits? What have they learned? What can I learn from them? What are they trying to say? They'll have plenty to say. And then she goes on from there and tells us more about the deck, which is great. So a couple things that we want to pay attention to. The Beloved Dead is comprised of a total of 81 cards. So we're going to go through them all today, but let's just read about the structure. There is one Spirit Throne card. What happened to my lighting? Is my lighting suddenly dark? Do y'all see that? Maybe it's just me. Are we just being moody? What's happening? I don't know. It just seems darker all of a sudden. Maybe that was weird. Okay, seems fine now. I don't know. Okay, we have one Spirit Throne card. We have 10 Act of Love cards. We have 69 Beloved Dead cards and one Ouija card. Interesting. So it says we view this last card. That's the Ouija card. Let's just pull that out so we can see it. Okay, we view this last card as the deck's wild card, so it comes without interpretation. When the Ouija card appears in a reading, take it as a sign that a spirit is lingering just outside the cards in your reading, or perhaps that another question needs to be asked. Okay, so that's what we do with that. The Spirit Throne. Think of this as a special staging card. The majestic Spirit Throne, it isn't one of the family oracle cards. It's unique and has its own purpose. It's meant to be used as a seat of honor, a sacred space within which to hold counsel. You can use the Spirit Throne card to call upon your ancestors, to invite them for conversation, to connect with a particular spirit, and as a beginning or ending card to open and close ritual work. I really like this idea of a seat where you can invite your own ancestor or your own spirit guide to sort of take part in what you're doing. So these cards kind of stand alone. We have the Wild card and we have the Spirit Throne card. Okay, the Act of Love cards. These 10 cards are your Special Forces team. These are the oracles of acts of love. These cards represent energetic transactions and choices that, once made, become your alchemy, turning baser instincts into gold. They can represent an individual, an energetic imprint, or an ancestor. They have the potential to release pain and shift unconscious drivers that throw you out of alignment. If you receive one or a few of these cards in your reading, you're being asked to augment and finish your work by committing to a high vibrational act of love. This particular 10-member choir of beloved dead brings in these acts to help stimulate the process of growth and healing for you. Once you flip over a card and it's an act of love, it also acts as an additional layer of meaning. In other words, when you pull another beloved dead oracle card, lay it on top of the act of love. Pay attention to the position in which it's landed. Make special note of which other beloved dead have summoned this card for you. We'll talk more about that in the spread section. For now, be aware that an act of love represents a charged area that wants some extra consideration. It's not uncommon to pull more than one act of love card in your reading. If there's chaos or confusion, dense, dark, or stuck energy, these cards are designed to open up your heart chakra, restoring and increasing flow. So what we're going to do is do a quick walkthrough of the 10 act of love cards, and then we'll get into the rest of the deck. Okay? So let's just set those aside. So in the act of love, we have as is, be you, do nothing, forgiveness and faith, here and now, objectivity, observation, self-care, self-preservation, and yes or no. So we're going to set those aside there, and let's read about the next section of cards. The Beloved Dead cards. The Beloved Dead cards are esteemed family of radiant souls. They will have a lot to say about your day-to-day interactions, personal dynamic, and experience of life. Each card will feature a character in a scene. The card is representative of the message from that scene. Ask a question, connect with the card's energy, and receive its celestial perspective. Enlightened and so full of afterlife, every spirit in this deck is a bright star in the constellation that is your soul's enchanted quest. These are the voices of your protective and guiding ancestors, spirit helpers, who understand that every minute you spend on this side of the veil, there's great work to be done. They've come together to reconcile the fellowship of the past with the unlimited potential of the future. So, let's just see. It talks about attuning with the beloved dead. Start with the Spirit Throne, an invitation for conversation. There's a talk about, there's an opening and a closing, if you would like to have an opening and closing sort of mantra or prayer kind of thing. And then there's individual write-ups for every card, including the Act of Love cards. So it does talk about those. Okay. Okay. There is a section called the Act of Love spread. Let's just see. Okay, so these are just different ways to work with the Act of Love. Okay, so let's just get into the Beloved Dead. We're going to do a bit of a flip through and a discussion. I like to be able to work with Oracle decks mostly intuitively. I think what I'm going to do is move these guys out of the way for a minute and zoom us in. There we go. I like to be able to know that I can look at the card and sort of work with it more intuitively and see what kind of comes through. So I'm hoping that the titles or the keywords on the cards would allow for that, would keep that option open for me. So we have absence, and this works. We have this faceless figure here, somebody who was maybe there but not there. That's very interesting. Academic, addiction. That could be difficult. Like I have Yeah, that can be difficult. We'll see. We'll see. I find ancestor work a little bit, like, quite challenging. And so I'm curious to see if this could open some doors for me. I don't know. Ancestry, just generally. So now I'm curious, like, we have a card just called Ancestry. Like, what does that represent in a reading? Who and what are we? Let's see. Really? Okay, so it's really just talking about the ways in which your ancestry affects you, like where you've gotten your eyes from, that sort of thing. Interesting. Appearance. When you receive this card, it's indicating an individual or a loved one by details related to their physical appearance. Oh, okay, so it's really meant to sort of like help you connect to more details. Arcana. You may also be working with a departed soul who may not be. So I feel like you're going to be like pulling out the spirit throne and like opening up for conversation with maybe a particular ancestor and pulling a few cards. We'll see when we get to the spread section, but pulling a few cards to see if you can identify who you're working with, and then maybe some additional cards about what their message is. Very, very interesting. So, because a lot of the way these entries are written are as if you're getting more information about a particular ancestor. Backstory. Body. Like, for example, in body, let's see. When body is being used as a descriptor card, there's something significant about the physical form, the soul's container, that factors prominently in a memory or shared experience. So it's really guided ancestor work, it sounds like, which I kind of like. It's not just like flying. You're not just kind of left on your own. There's real guidance in the guidebook for how these could represent, like these could be descriptors of an ancestor or could be messages from an ancestor. Like, for example, here's the change card. Let's see if we get an idea here. I'm just going to read the entire entry so we get a feeling for what this is like. Nobody wakes up, stretches their arm into the air while yawning, and says, "Bring on something unpredictable and unwanted with the potential to disrupt the very foundations on which my life is based. Mostly, we want a steaming cup of status quo, something known, manageable, and easy on our nerves and gray matter, and not the battering and imprudent winds of change, at least not today. Despite our incredible reservoirs of ingenuity and resilience, we're all creatures of habit. And yet, change is constant. It greets us in every waking moment. The rain melts the snow, and the winds dry the earth. Buds, in the blink of an eye, unfurl into a verdant landscape. We follow the natural cycles of birth, growth, and death, to sow, nurture, then reap, celebrating the harvest before resting with the fallow field. Change always ushers in a positive, necessary, or organizing energy. If you receive change, it indicates a turning of the tides. What is becomes was. Your response will activate the process of will be until it is again. The sequence of events may be experienced as the best thing ever or as unsettling, opening old wounds caused by upheaval and impermanence. In any case, this oracle likens the experience to a revolving wheel. Resisting change is like clutching the spokes, an act of control and desperation that will take you down into a vortex of unstable momentum. Ground yourself in reality in the hub of the wheel and allow it to circle around you. An attitude of acceptance helps you to work in harmony with this external force. The beloved dead of change whispers, "This too will pass." Now, so interestingly, this one doesn't actually indicate what this could mean as far as a descriptor card, but some of the other ones do. So I'm just curious what that, you know what I mean? Like how? Like if some of them are meant to be descriptors, if some of them are meant to be like, I would see this almost like as a message from a spirit guide or ancestor. But then in the body one or in some of these other ones, I would, like addict, I would assume that's a descriptor of somebody I'm dealing with, right? So we have chicken. Okay. Again, this feels more like a message. Communication. So this is interesting. When communication appears, it wants to explore how you're relating to others in your life, and then it goes on from there. Yep, so this feels more like a message. Then we have compass is a card of spiritual orientation and alignment. Competition, again, more message, I feel like. Indicates an individual, competition indicates an individual or ancestor who loves watching or participating in sports and games, deriving great pleasure from the race and rivalry. So again, some of these cards feel like they're describing somebody, and some of them feel more message-driven. And to be clear, even the ones that say that they're describing, seem like they're describing somebody, also give a message, but the descriptive language in the guidebook isn't consistent across every card. So some of them have more of that, have some of that, some of them don't have that. Conflict can also represent an internal process, brings energetic dissonance. Yeah, more message, right? Conscientious could be a descriptor, could be a message. Interesting. Okay, so we're getting kind of the vibe. So I'm just going to continue going through these really quick. We have creativity, defense, disconnect, drama, driver, entertainment, evermore. I really like that there is a much wider variety of types of people in these cards. They don't feel homogenous, which is really nice. Expectation, explorer. So like explorer tells me, it almost describes a person, whereas grave feels like it might have a message. Do you know what I mean? Like I think a lot of it depends on the type of card. Hardship, haunted, home, hospitality, important, innocent, invisible, justice, kindred. I love this one. Again, not homogenous. Really nice. Labor, leadership, limelight, location. Okay, come on now. Location? What the heck? Should you receive location, it indicates there's something significant about a place, destination, or property. So again, some of these cards are like giving you context or meaning or information, and some of them feel like they're specific like guides coming to give information. It's very, very interesting. Love, martyr, messenger, optimism, peace, perception. I love these images. It does feel like you're looking through kind of like old photographs, but there's a lot of angelic, like the way these images are done, you feel like you're getting a peek into sort of the afterlife, like as if they're showing up through that lens. So it's not just like photographs, but a lot of them have wings, so you can see them as angels. You can see them in heaven. Depending on your worldview and how you view that kind of thing, we get this kind of celestial, angelic vibe to all of these. I forgot to read them out loud. I'm sorry. Play. Personality is great. Did I miss any? Perfection. I got caught up in describing it. Yeah, perception, perfection, personality, play, and player. Very different energies, of course. Privilege. Promise. Prophecy. Love this. Love that she's like reading playing cards. Amazing. Love her face. Fabulous. Purpose. Religion. Remember. Oh. Service. I feel like this feels more usable as an ancestor deck than either just a general tarot or like an oracle. I don't know. It feels like because it's meant for that purpose, shine. It just feels welcoming. Snake. Sovereign. Survive. Teacher. Things. Time. Tribe. Love that. Vanity. Visitation. I want to see what that says. I wanted to see what haunted says too, actually. Do the hairs on the back of your neck bristle? Do you break out in goosebumps, or do you hear murmuring, see images, or even receive olfactory calling cards, such as the unmistakable scent of flowers, perfume, pipe smoke, or a wet dog? When visitation appears, I'm skipping, but it says when visitation appears, it's an indication that there's a loved one around you, providing guidance, protection, strength, validation, and reminding you that while life is ephemeral, love survives. And it goes on from there. Oh, it says this could include your pets. Oh my gosh, this will make me cry. Wholesome, wise guy, love that. And witch. I love witch. That's glorious. Okay, let me zoom back out. All right. So we have the active love cards. I'm still going to pull out the Spirit Throne, but I'm going to shuffle in the Ouija. We're going to give these a good shuffle. We're going to look at the rest of the guidebook and see what we think. Maybe pull a few random cards and see like how those specific cards might show up. So let's keep the Spirit Throne dead center here. Yeah, I meant to come back about the shuffle. The gilding, because the cards have some bend to them, the gilding does not feel super uncomfortable to me at all. All right. We're just going to pull 3 cards. 1, 2, and 3. Okay. All right, so we have hardship, An act of love, yes or no. Good, so we can look at that. And creativity. So let's explore this together. We're going to look at the guidebook. So the way the guidebook is set up, you have a welcome, what's in the box, how to begin, attuning with the beloved dead. Then we have the act of love cards, an act of love spread, the beloved dead cards, the Ouija card, and then we have some spreads in the back. But I thought I would just like organically work with this and see what I think. So we're going to look up these 3 cards and see how I might like interpret this in a reading. And I didn't do a whole lot to try to like connect beforehand, so I don't have high expectations. I'm just using this more as an example. Okay, so let me read what it says for hardship. Into each life, rain must fall, wrote the poet Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Some days must be dark and dreary. That said, hardship is also the card that takes you out at the knees. When it validates an individual, a loved one, or a story, hardship acknowledges dire experiences of oppression, poverty, and privation ranging from the most basic human needs, food, water, clothing, shelter, and safety, to suffering caused by physiological, financial, emotional, or social challenges. Hardship inflicts too much on those without enough. These feelings of despair aren't caused by unbalanced chakras or a lack of mindfulness. Thank you, Jesus. Sometimes, like, I love the nod to like the like wonky messages you can sometimes get when you're going through real, tangible difficulty. That's really beautiful. That gives me so much respect for Carrie Paris in this moment, truly. These feelings of despair aren't caused... Okay, yeah, so I already said that. There's a harrowing life experience present that can't always be cured from within. The process of healing can only begin once the root cause has been addressed and the circumstances supported or changed. When validating departed loved ones stepping forward to work with you, remember that hardship doesn't describe their current state of consciousness. So basically, if you're trying to connect with a particular loved one, this is what they're describing. It doesn't say that they're currently in hardship, she's saying. Transition souls are through with their earthly afflictions. If you're holding on to any heartache associated with their memory, your loved ones don't want this for you. They want you to remember their fighting spirit and know it as your legacy, not pain. Choose courage. The world needs your heart and voice. Honor your loved one's memory by lighting up this epigenetic marker. This card can also indicate an inherited or learned attitude of scarcity, a default narrative that you never have comparatively enough, despite evidence to the contrary. The beloved dead of hardship reminds you to always count your blessings and to the best of your ability be present for the days and moments that are bright and cheery. And if into your life some rain must fall. And it says, be still, sad heart, and ease repining. Behind the clouds is the sun still shining. Thy fate is the common fate of all. That's really beautiful. So you got a message as if your ancestor or an ancestor or spirit guide was speaking to you. You got a reminder that if you've pulled this for an ancestor, it's not saying your ancestor is currently in hardship, which I think that would be a really important message to get. If you're trying to connect with somebody, you don't want to pull this and think, oh my God, they're suffering. And I think that was a really beautiful message, the kind of thing that really speaks right to your heart if you're trying to connect with somebody. I really thought that was beautiful. So next we have act of love, yes or no. So let's see what that says. So in the act of love section, I look at that separately rather than going alphabetically to the whole thing, right? It says, let's speak to navigation of the guidebook for a moment. Because the guidebook is alphabetical for all the beloved dead, the fact that the act of love card, which is in a separate section and so individually alphabetized within the act of love section, the fact that it says act of love here tells you immediately what section to go to easily find that card. And I just wanted to say I think that's really well done. So here's what it says for this. What's it going to be? Yes or no? One inner voice is telling you one thing and another something radically different. How do you know which one is right? Your heart wants this, but your head thinks that. Honestly, the lunatics are running the asylum. Still, rather than make the wrong decision, you declare an impasse, choosing instead to block out both voices and assume the safe but stagnant stance of a perpetual maybe. The beloved dead of yes or no says this isn't a time to be wishy-washy, which effectively gives others control over your strings. How would things shift and change if you would only dare to step out of your comfort zone? The yes or no card is asking you for a commitment. Take charge, just say yes or no. Allow the beloved dead that falls with this card to help you form your conclusion. So I'm going to actually draw another card underneath yes or no. Oh, and it's love. Oh, how beautiful is that? Okay, sorry. I got to scooch this up because we're... Okay, so I pulled this card, which is love. So this is the yes or no card. We can actually probably scooch the spirit throne up here so you can actually see both of these cards well. Can we see them in the frame? Kind of. I'm going to move the spirit throne over here because I really want these to both be visible. All right. So that's the thing I think is that when you pull one of these acts of love, you want to pull like a clarifying card to go with it. Okay, so it says, Where did it go? Yes, the beloved dead that falls with this card. Allow the beloved dead that falls with this card to help you form your conclusion. Yes or no is a card that activates expansion through the rejection of fear-based, learned, or manipulated responses. Stay committed to your highest good choice and your best path forward despite the urge to fall back into old and uncomfortable habits. So it says, tip, prior to divination, you can turn the yes or no card around many, many times and then randomly insert it into the deck. If it falls right side up, take this as a yes, and if reversed, then no. So you could work with it that way too by shuffling it into the deck. However, and seeing how it turns up. That's interesting. But what I'm going to do, because it was yes or no, and we want to get clarity from the beloved dead that came with it, is I'm going to look up that love card. I really like this. This feels very guided, very specific, very targeted messages from ancestor work. I don't think I have to work for it, which for somebody that, I'm somebody that has a lot of blocks around ancestor work. And having something like this that feels so guided feels really powerful to me. So here's what it says about love. When you receive the message of love, you aren't alone. You're being surrounded with light and given confirmation that you're protected, guided, and connected with your highest good or your spirit team. When this card is validating a loved one, they're stepping forward with a very clear message. I love you. When you receive love, take a moment to work with the card. Okay, so it talks about, there's a practice. I'm not going to read that because I don't want to get lost in that. Invite your loved one closer. Okay. So it goes on from there. So to me, like the love being here would be like, let love guide the answer, the yes or no. Would kind of clarify that response. Okay, the third one I pulled here is creativity, and that's a regular beloved dead. So let's look that up. If it can be imagined, it's possible. Everyone is innately creative, but not everyone allows themselves to be. Imagination is a gift, a talent, and force that once unleashed frees the mind to looking at life through a soft gaze. Many artists, dreamers, and visionaries who embrace this soul calling must first learn to overcome a chorus of noisy and heavy-handed limitations. The beloved dead of creativity knows the drill well. When the imagination takes flight and allows the teacups to waltz with the saucers, you'll be inspired to paint, write, play, sing, compose, dance, invent, and innovate. But hold on, says the logical brain, which rapidly steps forward, furrowing its brow while chirping. Do you really want to do this? What will people say? You call this art? Are people going to laugh at you? And what if you fail? Or gulp, what if you're actually successful? Can we handle it? Trust me, exclaims the seemingly sensible logical brain to its creative counterpart. I'm saying this for your own good. Firstly, because it's my job to keep you safe, unoriginal, and normal in this maddening world. And secondly, because I'm also the recurring voice of the past, representing all of those souls whose creativity was starved because of a lack of opportunity or nourishment. And if your ancestors' dreams couldn't survive and flourish, why should yours? This is the question the beloved dead of creativity has arrived to help you answer, because it's the first step on this beautiful and enlightened path. Wow. So I don't feel like I need spreads to work with this effectively to actually have conversation with spirit guides or ancestors. And I think this is the kind of thing that you could work with specifically to try to connect with loved ones, to try to connect with ancestors, to get messages from guides that have your best interests at heart. I think there's ways to work with this very easily in a dynamic way. I think this is really inspired, to be honest. The fact that I can work with this and feel comfortable and safe, to me, says a lot. So there is some oracle spreads in the back. I don't want to give these all away, but I will say there's some 3-card spreads. There's an evidential spread. Now, this is ideal for spirit communication, it says, as well as to uncover information that's been forgotten, nestled into the folds of time. And it talks about... so card 1, so I don't want to give it, again, I don't want to give it away. I would say if this is intriguing you, you should definitely think about looking into it. But this is a 3-card spread that they're describing, Carrie's describing the guidebook now, where it sort of does a way to figure out who you're talking to and to get a message from them, which is really beautiful. There's also some checklists about communicating with the dead, some more guidance and information and support for that. And there's some sample readings as well for how to interpret what comes through. And she even gives an example here of what I did with the act of love. So you have these 2 cards, right? And then there's an act of love drawn, and they drew a beloved oracle to, a beloved dead oracle card to sort of clarify that message and talk about how that was interpreted. And then there's also a beloved dead spread, which is quite lengthy. So you have a total of 12 cards, including the throne card that's used for that spread. So I'll be excited to play with that. That's really cool. And then there's also a Pillar of Personal Power spread, which is also 12 cards. Very, very cool. Let me put this to the side. And some sample interpretations of that as well. Kind of what that looks like. and some information on Carrie Paris and Tina Hart and their work on this. This is really, really cool. So this was a collaboration, and I'm so sorry. I've been talking Carrie Paris the whole time because that's who I had in my brain for this. And I'm so sorry to Tina. It says it's written by both Carrie Paris and Tina Hart. So this was something that they did together. I don't want to disregard anybody's voice in this because I think it's a very, very well done set. This is, I think, the thing I've been lacking. I have read the Ancestral Tarot book. I have tried to do ancestor work with tarot. I have done ancestor magical work and it's been really beautiful, but this feels so beautifully guided and really has me excited for doing more work in an intentional way. I do think for me that I'm going to keep this in its box and keep it on a shelf as opposed to like, this isn't the kind of thing I would pull out and use as like a regular oracle deck, you know? So I think what I'm going to do is pop the cards in like that and put the Spirit Throne right on top. And that, yeah. Oh, I screwed that up. The ribbon goes underneath, y'all. Hello? There we go. I was like, why isn't this sitting right? That's why. All right. There we go. That's better. So I'm going to keep this in its box and keep it on a shelf. And I think this is a really beautiful time of year to be doing this kind of work. I often think of the period between Samhain and Yule as a really beautiful time for working with ancestors. I am really excited to do some work with this. I'm going to do some work with this. So keep an eye out. If you want an update on what my experience with this has been like or on any things, keep an eye out for my show and tells, my monthly show and tells. Probably my October or November show and tell is when I'm most likely to be talking about this. So keep an eye on that for an update on my channel. Thank you again to Wiser Books for sending this to me so that I could take a closer look at it. I'm really touched by this deck. This was not on my radar at all. I have been avoiding ancestral type decks and work for a while because every time I try it, it just hasn't sat right. So this really scratched an itch that I didn't know was itchy for me. And I'm really, really pleased and excited to get to know it even better. But it feels like something I literally feel like I can just pull it out of the box and start working. And it doesn't feel effortful. And every other type of ancestor work tool or book or whatever that I've worked with has felt like a poor fit or effortful in some way. And this doesn't feel like that at all. And I'm really, really impressed. So if you've been looking for something that is kind of open for exploration of this kind of work, I think this is really, really special and I'm so pleased. So anyways, I'm gonna stop gushing. This one really surprised me in a good way. That's it for now. Thanks you guys so much. As always, extra big thank you goes out to the Unicorn fam. Thank you so much for your tangible support, for subscribing to the channel and contributing to what I'm doing here. It really makes such a huge difference. I cannot even begin to tell you, so thank you so much. We're having a ton of fun in membership. If you're interested in that, I have perks at various tiers of support. If you choose to come on board as a member, we get custom special emojis that you can use in comments and live streams. We have members only live streams and chit chats. We have a deck study club, a book study club. We do lots of fun things in there. So if you're interested, you can check a link for that out in the description box down below, or you can click the join button from my channel homepage or this video's page if you can see it there, and check out what all the different tiers have to offer. Thank you all so much. And until next time, may your magic always shine from the inside out. Bye.